Okay, my name is Jennifer Foreman-Orth. I am a biologist that works at the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, and this is the February 2022 Spotted Lanternfly Massachusetts Quarterly Update. I am joined here today by Astra Perkins, who heads the Spotted Lanternfly survey team, and also we're very lucky to have today two special guest speakers. Saul is going to be talking to us live from a spotted lanternfly infestation in New Jersey. He's at the New Jersey Department of Agriculture. And later today, Erica from the USDA is going to join us to talk about the infestation of spotted lanternfly in Connecticut. Let me just go to the next. Yes, this webinar is being recorded. Okay, a lot of you are here to get pesticide license credits. This webinar is approved for the following continuing education credits. So if you have a Massachusetts pesticide license credit, you can get core credits or categories 25, 26, 27, 29, 31, 35, 36, 40, and 48. We have also been approved for the Mass Forester's license or one MCA or MCH credit, one MCLP credit, and a half of the MQTW credit. If you don't know what any of those mean, you're probably not eligible for those credits. They're all self-service. If you are here for the pesticide applicators license credits, I intend to process the credits by March 1st. I'm the only one processing these credits, and we have over 300 people registered. So I would be really grateful if folks didn't start emailing me probably now and within an hour of now to ask where your credits are. You will get your credits. Give me till March 1st, and then you can start bugging me. If you want those credits, you need to stay for the entire webinar, and you need to answer all of the poll questions that are going to be popping up. If you can't or don't, you won't be getting credits. So hopefully that answers a lot of questions other folks have. If you have other questions, again, please use the Q&A box. We will attempt to answer as many as we can after all the speakers have gone. Here's a quick basic slide for those of you who are unfamiliar. Spotted lanternfly, or Lycorma delicatula, is a true bug in the order Hemiptera. It's an invasive sap-sucking insect that was brought to North America from Asia accidentally several years ago. And it has over 100 host plants. And while its main host plant is itself an invasive species, the tree of heaven, it also attacks black walnut, maple, grapes, and hops, and is therefore of significant concern to those of us that work in agriculture and in the green industries. That's about all you're going to get today about the basic spotted lanternfly, because we are on our 4th quarterly update and we've already covered most of the basics. Today, we're going to be doing some cool stuff. We're going to be going to New Jersey, do a live stream of SLF egg mass surveys and removals. You're going to get the latest on the recent finds in Massachusetts and a summary of the SLF program efforts that are going on in Connecticut with the state and also the USDA there. With that said, I would like to turn it over to Saul at the New Jersey Department of Agriculture, who is braving below freezing temperatures, if I am correct, to bring us out to an actual spotted lanternfly infested site where they're doing some egg mass removals. So Saul, I would ask that you share your screen and unmute yourself so that folks can hear what's going on. And I am so grateful that you could join us today.
Okay. First of all, can you hear me?
Can hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm trying to use a stylus here so my fingers don't freeze. Share. Okay. All right. I should be sharing my screen now.
Oh, wait, hold on. I stopped sharing my screen. Oh, I can see Erica's here. So Erica, I'm glad you're here. You might want to mute yourself, Erica, just so that we don't catch any background noise. Saul, you're not sharing the screen right now.
All right. I'm hitting the button for share screen. Starting at, yeah. Whoops. It's asking me to record. I don't know why. And I'm hitting the share button. And I got a pop-up here with photos. I'm trying to share screen here. Cancel. It's insisting that I record, allow. All right, let's see.
We are recording this webinar, so maybe that's why you're getting that message. Do you need me to stop recording?
I don't know. When I hit the share button, it's giving me a choice to share. It's almost like maybe there's a different button. I'm not doing it right.
So folks know we did test this yesterday and it was working. So we're not sure what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see myself in my camera. Is there anything you can do on your end?
There is not.
Because
other than I have already done. So I made it so that you could share your screen.
Well.
All right, guys, just give us a couple more minutes to try things out, and then
camera.
There, it's working. Hold on. Yay!
Right. So I sort of figured it out. Okay, so here we are live in New Jersey. I have some of my staff here who work in the field every day. They're going to demonstrate how we do the egg mass scraping. It's a physical crushing of the eggs. We're doing this at priority locations throughout the state, mostly seaports, airports, train yards, and high volume shipping operations. The idea is to slow the spread. We're not eradicating. It's not an eradication effort anymore. In the winter, obviously, you can't apply pesticides, so scraping or crushing egg masses is the way to go. I am going to turn my camera around if I can figure out how. Of course, the flip the camera button isn't there. Well, isn't that something? Okay, I can. What I can do is do it this way, and tell me if you see the egg masses. Are you seeing it?
Yes, just waiting for them to come into focus. Hearing some lovely birds chirping in the background too.
So, for some reason, I can't turn my screen around.
You might need to touch somewhere in like the middle of the screen just to get the options to show up.
Give me options to pause the camera.
Okay.
Wait, didn't have this problem yesterday.
I know. We can make it though.
So, well, you know what I can do? We're lucky because this branch we chosen is actually detached from the tree. It's rather unusual. Watch out, guys. I'm going to try and dislodge this. There. Okay, stand back, Peter. It's coming down. All right. I've brought down the branch. And where did it go? Where's the part we were looking at? Okay, so here I'm gonna move over. This is why we practice in advance, and then we adapt. Okay, so this is an up close of the egg mass. I don't know how well you're seeing that. It's not easy. And that's in the shade, isn't it?
Yeah, if you could get it in the sun, that would be great. Also, right now we're just seeing the snow, but it's a little choppy this morning, of course.
Okay, I've got one more option. I'm gonna ask a person younger and smarter than me to try and figure out. See if you can flip the screen. Here. You're in a Zoom call right now. Just see what you can do to flip the screen.
The button's there. It's just grayed out.
It's grayed out.
Yeah. Maybe.
All right. How about this? I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second, Jen.
Yeah, that's no problem.
And I'm gonna try and flip the screen.
Okay. That
Okay,
works.
and then we're going to start sharing again.
Yep.
And camera. And now, see, that's all it took was a little bit of effort. All
Brilliant.
right, now
Thank
I
you.
can see what you see. Are you seeing egg mass here?
Yes. Perfect.
All right. So that one, and then there's one next to it, which is there. So that's the crusty stuff. And I'll tell you what, does one of you guys want to demonstrate with the scraper card? I'll tell you when you're in. Okay, I think you're in focus. So here we go. That egg mass. So not that technical. It's scraped, and in the process of scraping, you're crushing these tiny little eggs, which are they on there? That's what's left on your scraper card. So you're physically crushing the eggs. They are dead once you've done it. You want to try this one too?
Next to it so you can see
Yeah.
the size.
So there's a ruler on the scraper card, so you can see that's just about 1.5 inches, a little bit bigger than a quarter. So he's scraping it. So right now in New Jersey, we have scraped over 150,000 egg masses. We count them as we scrape them. We have a team that is comprised of USDA APHIS-PPQ and NJDA staff. And we don't just scrape the ones that we can reach from the ground. So these two guys, Quentin and Peter, are going to demonstrate what we do with a scraper pole. We'll start with Quentin over here. You can see what he's doing. He's found an egg mass and he's scraping it. Peter, wait 1 sec. You're not on camera yet. And then I'll. Okay. So imagine you're doing this with your arms up over your head quite a bit. Now, Peter's demonstrating the highest possible reach for scraping an egg mass. One thing to keep in mind as I back up, scientists will tell us that, you know, something like 90% of the egg masses are higher than you can reach. So while we are doing our best to cut down the egg masses, you know, we're definitely not getting them all. So it's an uphill battle. I'll tell you what, at this point, you know, that's basically the egg mass scraping demo. He's scraping some low ones here. Is there any questions, Jen?
So about how high was that? Was that about 12, 14 feet max?
So it's a 6-foot pole, doubles up to 12 plus the height of Peter. So you're talking about maybe 18 feet in the air.
Wow. It must get really hard to do that accurately when it's that high up.
Yeah, so he's saying especially when it's windy, it gets tough. You don't want to have to do that all day long, but you know, we have a stalwart staff that does this stuff. It's a lot of work. You know, we try to keep about 26 people on staff doing this on my side, and then you've got the USDA side as well, which has something like 15 people. So you might have 40 people in New Jersey working on this at, you know, in the north and the south. We split it into a north and a south team. And, you know, we're working year round. Winter work is tough because it's cold and you're scraping egg masses. Summer work's tough because it's hot and you're spraying pesticides. So it's really no easy time.
That was my one other question for you, was to ask, because I know some of the other states are working with golden oil.
Yeah.
When it's a little, you know, as soon as it's warm enough. What do you know what New Jersey's plans are?
We are going to use golden oil. We have used it. It's mostly, I think it's 90% soybean oil or 93% soybean oil, and it suffocates the eggs. So we have not done much of that because, as you mentioned, it's not, you can't do it in the cold weather. It has to be above 40 degrees Fahrenheit to apply it, and I think below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So it will happen, and it will be done with rope paint rollers, I believe, right, guys? They're saying yes, paint rollers.
Okay.
The only other thing I'll mention that's interesting, this tree was hit with hack and squirt herbicide, and I guess they didn't use enough. And I don't know if you can tell the mark there. And here, if you could see that little hatch mark there, it didn't die. It actually healed over. So hack and squirt doesn't always kill the tree. Here's a healed hack mark right here. And I know it's one of our trees because it's still got a red paint mark at the bottom from back when we used to paint each and every tree before treating it. Here's another hack and squirt. Now, of course, this tree might be dead. We wouldn't know because, so these hack marks don't look like they're healed over. Is it still alive too? Okay. So do you see the hatch marks there? This was a hack and squirt tree that might have survived. So you need quality control in these projects too. Now we don't do much hack and squirt anymore. It's not part of the process, but it used to be the major part. And quality control means you got to go back and see if the tree is still alive. So I I can flip it around now, and so glad I figured out how to do that. So is that it?
One more quick question, just because somebody, one of the attendees asked a really great question. So what exactly is that egg scraping equipment? Is that stuff you guys hacked together, or are you using something that was meant for something else?
This is for painting.
It's here, Peter will answer.
We're using painter's poles basically, and just scrapers that screw on the end.
So it's painting equipment. We actually use these same extendo poles in the Emerald Ash Borer survey to hang up our purple panel traps. They have a screw top at the end. And so they found these attachments, and that's what they're using now. There's a mini one here, which, so if you can, a lot of the staff don't have big vehicles. They can't fit, you know, a really long scraper pole in their car. So for those, most of my staff drive their own cars. All of my staff drive their own cars, and most of them are not pickup trucks. So you're looking at using a smaller scraper pole for those cars.
This one goes to 8 feet, but
So
it's naturally like 4 feet.
So his is 4 foot to 8 foot, and this one was 6 foot to 12 foot. Okay, is there any last questions or?
No, I don't want to keep you any longer because I appreciate that you are freezing out there. If you're
22 degrees
oh,
here today.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Thank you so much for doing this for us yet again. We really appreciate it. If you're
It's my
able
pleasure.
to, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's my pleasure to do it, and I hope you have a good rest of your seminar. And thanks to Peter and Quentin for coming out.
Yes, thank you to everybody on the New Jersey team. Take care,
Okay.
Saul.
Stop sharing.
All right. Guys, I am back sharing my own PowerPoint screen. I saw a lot of questions come in. I tried to answer a few of them. I'm just going to move on because we lost a little bit of time. And here we are at our first poll question. I encourage anybody participating in this webinar to answer the poll questions, even if you're not here for continuing education credits. Also, anyone answering, you don't have to get the question right to get the credits. You just have to answer. Try your best. All right, I need to launch the poll question. Hold on. Little rusty here. Hold on, guys. Polls. And launch. Okay, poll question 1. How do pesticide applicators qualify for credits for this webinar? Your first choice would be you need to log in for at least 15 minutes. Your second choice, log in for at least 30 minutes. Third choice, log in for the entire webinar, which is 1 hour. Fourth choice, log in for the entire webinar and answer all poll questions. Final choice is just be awesome. All right, we've got 75% participation. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds or so, and then I'm going to close this out. All right, pretty close to 92% participation. I'm going to end the poll and share the results. I know what a lot of you were thinking, which is why were you only allowed to pick one answer? Because you are, of course, being awesome, but the actual right answer is you need to log in for the entire webinar and answer all the poll questions. I will say there's one little caveat to that, which is that we're scheduled till 11:15. If you need to scoot during the Q&A, but you answered all 3 poll questions, that's okay. You don't need to ask me about that. All right. Now, right, just a quick update, and then we're gonna head over to Astra's presentation on the latest in Massachusetts. This is the latest spotted lanternfly map put out by the New York IPM folks. I just wanted to show you, for those of us who are at our November webinar, this hasn't changed a lot, except that Virginia has added several new counties where they're blue, meaning they have actual infestations present. It's not just individual finds. Zoom in and just show you the Massachusetts map, which is current as of right now. You might have seen our press release. We've added an additional infestation in the town of Shrewsbury, meaning that we have 2 infested municipalities now, both in Worcester County. And you'll see we've got a lot of blue dots out there, which are individual finds of spotted lanternfly where there's no infestation present. Right now, the only SLF-free areas that we know of are Nantucket and the Cape. We've had finds every place else, no established infestations except in Worcester County. In terms of what you should be looking for right now, we're not really going to go into details about the egg masses again, because we did that in November, but we're here in February. We're still in a place where, of course, there's no active nymphs or adults out. It's just the egg masses that are out, but you could be coming across dead adults in shipments of goods or materials from states that have established spotted lanternfly infestations. Typically, those insects have been treated and passed away, or they died in transport, but you might see dead adults out there. In terms of spotted lanternfly egg masses, I'm really just showing this slide quickly. You're going to be seeing a lot of other egg mass photos in Astra's presentation. I just kind of want you guys to get that search image in your head so that you know what you're looking for. Typically, the egg masses are about an inch and a half long, and they're typically covered with this putty-like substance, although they might be partially or completely uncovered. But typically, they're covered, like the third photo in this group here. And here's some more pictures of lanternfly infestations on trees so that you can see what the egg masses look like on trees, both from far away, kind of close up, and very close up. As the egg masses weather over the winter, you see cracks form in that putty-like covering. Here's some more pictures of egg masses on outdoor equipment and rusted metal things and abandoned tires and pretty much any flat surface. And just for comparison, probably the most common look-alike egg mass you're going to see out there is from the spongy moth or Lymantria dispar. Those egg masses are more of a rusty orange color. They're more fuzzy, not putty-like. They're a little bit larger, and they often have these little pinprick black holes on them that are parasitoid wasps attacking the spongy moth eggs. You might also see these fungal growths that look like an egg mass, but are actually just fungi. Okay, I'm going to pass things over to Astra Perkins, who is our lead on the spotted lanternfly survey team at the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. Astra, if you want to share your screen and unmute yourself. I might need to stop sharing, I forget. I think I made it so that you can just share. Why don't you let me know?
Is that working?
It worked perfectly.
Great.
Take it away.
Let me just go to my screen. Hi, everybody. I'm Astra. I'm one of the survey techs out here with MDAR. So we have been going out all winter and looking for egg masses in different parts of the state. So this is our SLF survey update for the last few months. And if you attended our last webinar, I'll just briefly go back over what happened. So MDAR initially set out 50 circle traps across the state. Circle traps are the basic trap that we use. It's a screen, it's a mesh screen that we staple to the tree that has a little baggie on the top with pesticide in it, and a little lure that supposedly attracts spotted lanternfly. So initially we didn't catch any SLF in our original traps, and then we also get public reports through our reporting website, and those were mostly negative or introductions of single dead specimens. But we do site visits at all verified reports, which is basically when someone sends in a picture so that we know that it was actually SLF or something at least suspicious. If there's no pictures sent with it, you know, we get a lot of these reports. And so if you want to report something, just try to have a picture with it. And so our site selection criteria for this past year was presence of Ailanthus altissima, or tree of heaven, which is their favorite host tree, and then the presence of businesses receiving goods from infested areas, which can be outdoor goods, agricultural goods, really anything at this point. And then agricultural areas, which are greater risk for significant impact, such as vineyards and orchards. And then our other areas of concern include transportation pathways. SLF will lay egg masses on just about any flat surface, which can include trucks and train cars. So roadways and railways are considered to be one of our highest risk pathways. And then, although there's many agricultural sites in infested areas that are complying with their treatment restrictions, SLF in those areas, whether the agricultural land or not, can be so prolific that getting everything in those areas, Pennsylvania, et cetera, it's nearly impossible. So as such, railways and trucking centers are becoming a significant threat to our own environmental economy. So this is just going over our Fitchburg report. So in late July, we got a public report that came in through our website. This is the actual picture that they sent in. And it is a 4th instar nymph, which is the last instar before they change into the full adult spotted lanternfly. In this instar, they turn red, they get their, just get bigger, and they turn into basically what they'll look like, except with wings when they're adults. So we went out to the site, investigated, didn't see anything at the time, found some Ailanthus on site. So we put up circle traps and bug barriers, which are sticky bands that go around the trees, facing inward, and they basically catch anything crawling up the trees. And so there was Ailanthus altissima pretty close to where this was reported, and we put a trap on those trees immediately. And so about a month later, we caught an adult in that trap and then saw several other adults on the trees. These are the actual trees that we found that had the traps in that we found the SLF on. So that triggered our full quarter-mile host delimitation. And so that means that we go and we look for every host tree that they might be feeding on or possibly lay on, and survey that, and then survey a 30-foot radius around that host plant. Any surfaces, any rails, any walls, cars that might park constantly in that area, we try to survey everything that we can. So it's time intensive, but it does help us to really make sure that we're getting a full delimitation of where this infestation might be. And while we were doing that survey, MDAR and the Department of Conservation and Recreation partnered up, and we had these original trees treated. So these are the actual trees being treated by one of the DCR staff. And what we did was twofold. We injected the trees with Dynatef urine, which gets sucked up through the trees' water system and becomes an insecticide because anything that's feeding on the tree. And then we sprayed the foliage with bifenthrin, which is a foliar spray, and that's a kill on contact. So This person up in the bucket truck sprayed anything that she saw, basically the whole surface of the canopy, to try and make sure that we got everything that was alive on those trees. But survey took a while, and we also went over it again. And so while we were surveying the quarter-mile boundary in late fall, we found more infested trees, which were all Ailanthus altissima. So that just shows you that it is one of their main hosts. They very much prefer it. They've definitely adapted to live on these trees and to make their egg masses look like these trees. So these all had freshly laid egg masses, and they were found late in the season, probably in about November. And so at that point, all of the adults were moribund, which is dying or at the point of death. And we didn't find any adults on these trees. All we found was the freshly laid egg masses. And here are some bino pics of these. These are the ones in Fitchburg. They really are this hard to see. This is all through binoculars. So imagine these being 30, 40 feet up in the tree. And there you can see each one. They're all different. Some are a little bit more weathered in these pictures because we took them later in the season. But these were all fresh. Some are better covered than others. See this top photo. Some are just, they blend in perfectly. This bottom left photo, you know, they're really hard to see, especially on Ailanthus. They just look exactly like the bark of the tree. So then earlier this year, actually very early on into January or late December, we were wrapping up surveys in Fitchburg, and we had a report come in of a dead lanternfly in a driveway in Shrewsbury. So right after Christmas, basically, we went to investigate that. And as we were investigating it, the person reported seeing a second dead SLF. And this was interesting because originally the reporter thought that they might have gotten these dead SLF from a site that they had been on Christmas. They had actually been dumpster diving in other areas of Massachusetts, and they got some agricultural material that they thought might have had these dead SLF. So we were actually investigating where they had dumpster dive when she called in the second dead SLF. So we went out that property and we found the deads that she had found. And then we found that there was a lot of Ailanthus altissima in the area, some right across the street from her, but we didn't see any signs. We didn't see any egg masses. We didn't see any dead or dying SLF on the ground. This was late in the season, so they would have all been dead, but we saw nothing in the leaf cover underneath trees, no egg masses. So we needed to do more investigation because this was a really suspicious find. And this is in Shrewsbury. So after we took a look around that property in the immediate vicinity and didn't see anything, we took a look at the rest of the area within a few kilometers and realized that there was, you know, a very heavily trafficked industrial and commercial area nearby. So we decided to go out to a specific spot and see if we couldn't find any signs of SLF. So we went about 2 kilometers away from that person's property where she had found the dead finds. And as soon as we started surveying, we found more egg masses. And this is just a picture of us out there at this site surveying. As you can see, we're looking at an elm. There's a birch over here, and we found most of the egg masses on the elms and the birch. There was one uncovered egg mass on an Ailanthus altissima. You can kind of see it right over here, which we scraped immediately. It was like an unfinished, uncovered egg mass, but it looks like at this particular site, they weren't preferring the Ailanthus. But the site itself illustrates perfectly that trucking and industry is going to be one of the most common pathways for bringing SLF Up here, it's already one of the most common ways that SLF has been known to spread. So these are some of the egg masses in Shrewsbury. And as you can see, birch and elm. And the elms are pretty hard to see. I believe we found about 5 or 6 on this elm tree. And it's tough. If you move to a slightly different position, they can be almost impossible to see. If the light isn't great, it can be almost impossible to see. So it's tough to actually note these if they're up high in the trees, if you're not really staring and looking for them. So that find triggered another quarter-mile delimitation in that area. We're currently finishing that up, and we haven't seen any more signs of SLF except for on those original trees. We will continue to survey a larger area of Shrewsbury just to make sure that there aren't sporadic populations that might have branched off from that area. This is standard. We did it in Fitchburg too. Basically, we go out a couple kilometers and we do 20-point surveys in the grids surrounding the quarter mile. And that allows us to sort of do a larger ground cover. But if we're not seeing anything, we can sort of be hopeful, and I wouldn't say 100% guarantee, but like 90% guarantee that nothing has spread further than that quarter mile that we were originally delimitating. And that is good because that helps us to, have a smaller area of where we can just remove the trees, and, we'll survey again later in the season, but it helps us to be pretty sure that we've gotten everything in the area. So this is just, it's illustrating that the transportation pathways seem to be our biggest threat. In both Fitchburg and Shrewsbury cases, the sites were near highly trafficked transportation areas, and probably from other states. We don't know exactly where everything comes from. We're not going to try to blame individual other states, but it's spreading, and it's easy for that spread to happen just through transportation. And so what is MDAR doing about this pest? We're going to remove the trees in Fitchburg and in Shrewsbury. We are going to have those cut before the growing season begins. The egg hatch starts in late April, May, but we're going to try to have these done before we have growing degree days in any significant number, so that we can really guarantee that nothing is hatching. And those trees need to be chipped down to 1 by 1 inch squares in 2D form. So they need to be really thin, really small. And then the stumps of the trees that we can remove, we will have ground up and taken. And then all of the chips will be transported to a local Massachusetts power plant, which will incinerate them. We're lucky that nearby Fitchburg, there is a power plant that does take wood chips, and they're willing to take all of our material and incinerate it so that we can 100% guarantee that SLF is not spreading from these infestations once we get rid of the trees. And then any remaining material we're going to be treating with herbicide throughout the growing seasons. And so we're going to continue our surveys. This May, about 80 traps are going to be placed across the state. We've selected sites based on their high risk or if we got previous reports. Our ground surveys are going to continue in the infested municipalities. So Shrewsbury and Fitchburg will continue to be covered regularly. And then anything that remains will be treated with herbicide and checked and treated. And then all of our verifiable public reports through our reporting website will be investigated. And if it seems suspect, we will place traps in those areas. And then, so this is just our reporting website, massnrc.org/pest/slfreport.aspx. please, if you have even a slight suspect, something that you think is SLF, a nymph, whatever, as spring comes along, try to get a picture of it and report it to this website. And that is it for me. So I will stop sharing my screen. Maybe.
Yep.
And over to you, Jen.
All right, everybody, you should see my screen. We're gonna go right into a poll question. Thank you, Astra. I already knew everything you were saying, but I still found it really informative, so thank you. Okay, and now you guys have seen probably 20 different images of egg masses, so you should be able to handle this poll question pretty easily, right? Take a look at this photo, and when I go to the poll, you're going to probably not be able to see the photo. So study this photo really closely and count the number of spotted lanternfly egg masses on this photo. And keep in mind, this is taken from a part of the tree that's probably 18 to 20 feet up, using a zoom lens on a camera. If you were on the ground like the survey team, you'd be using a decent pair of field binoculars, but still binoculars all the same, with all the issues with light and weather and standing on a giant snow pile that collapses under your feet. Now I'm going to launch the poll question. So again, you should be counting how many egg masses you can see on this. Let me go to question 2, and I'm launching the poll. So we're just asking, you know, how many egg masses can you spot on this elm tree? The options are between 1 and 8. And the responses are coming in really fast. Howie, I'm expecting you to answer this correctly. I'll be making fun of you at work meetings later if you don't. Anyway, we've got about 85% participation. I'm going to leave this poll up for about another 10 seconds. Got a big range coming in here. 91% participation. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2. I'm about to end the poll and share the results. Let's see. We've got 30% said 8, 23% said 1, and we've got at least one answer for every single one in there. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go to the slide with, wait, that's it. Right. Okay. Sorry. So there was only one SLF egg mass in this photo where the arrow is pointing on the right limb right there. And yeah, it's a little blurry, but this is about as good as you're going to get with a pair of full binoculars standing back behind a chain link fence. If you think you saw more than one, you were probably looking at the various different clusters of fungus on this tree. So yeah, it is really tricky. And so I always appreciate the work that the survey crews are doing out there, for sure. Okay, at this point, I would like to pass it over to Erica, who is going to talk to us about the Connecticut spotted lanternfly infestation. And it is 10:46. Erica, if there's any way you can be done as close to 11 as possible, I will be grateful. If not, I understand, just do your best. Also, I am going to stop sharing my screen. And what was the last thing I was going to say? Right. So folks know, if you're here for those pesticide license credits, there is going to be one more poll question after Erica's talk. Erica's sharing her screen. And Erica, you just want to say something?
Yep. Can you hear me, Jen?
Can hear you really well. We're seeing all your slides right now.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jen. Let's get this up. Apologize, I was late to the party. My computer crashed just at 10 o'clock. That was fun. Good morning, everyone. I'm a PPQ supervisory officer. I cover Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, specifically on SLF. And I just want to provide a quick update. In Connecticut, in 2021, we added a new county. It was New Haven County, with SLF popping up there at some rest areas and a little neighborhood up here closer to the border, as well as, Worcester County happened to come online as well with SLF. I wanted to show you guys, Astra really did hit it, the nail on the head, that the major transportation routes with trucking and rail are really the big pathways that this pest is spreading. This is just a brief overview of what we saw in 2021. Most of these were follow-ups from our reported app through the state. And you can see that, I don't know if you can't see my pointer. Let's.
Erica, do you intentionally make it the view so that we could see your next slide? Because we're not seeing the full screen for the slide, and that might make it.
It's funny. My other, I have 3 screens, and my other screen is showing the full PowerPoint. So
Might want to stop sharing and try sharing again.
That is funny.
It's always interesting to see how clustered everything is in the southwest corner. There we go. That's perfect.
Awesome. And now how about if I do this? Can you guys? Yes. Okay. This right here happens to be the I-95 corridor. Along that happens to be rail as well. And this is Route 15, the Merritt Parkway. And these are kind of rest areas that SLF has popped up at. This happens to be the first one coming from New York into Connecticut. So PPQ's main focus is treatment and suppression of SLF. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because that's what our program will be transitioning to now. Instead of doing the visual surveys, now it's going to be trying to stop the spread of pest, or at least slow it down. So this is straight up from the Penn State website. This is what you can do for management throughout the year. Don't move anything. Check your stuff before you move is going to be the most effective. We saw Sal do the scraping and destroying of eggs. Currently in Connecticut, we haven't done a lot of scraping. We're actually gearing up to do that. We were waiting for things to come in for my staff to go out and scrape. But just the small staff that we have right now, we are up to 4 people. We've scraped over 100 egg masses. Most of those happen to be in those high traffic areas as well. We did use circle traps in 2021 as a mitigation tool instead of trying to figure out population dynamics. We were definitely using it as a treatment instead. And this happens to be what we're going to be doing this year, is the contact spray and the systemic sprays of the dinotefuran and the bifenthrin. Golden pest oil is also a new tool to our toolbox to mitigate the pest. We have not currently done any, but we have areas that we have highlighted to treat the egg masses. Bifenthrin and dinotefuran will be the 2 key players that we have in Connecticut. If I go back to the slide here, with the bifenthrin, we are very limited as to what we can put down. Bifenthrin is very toxic to aquatic animals and invertebrates. So we have to stay 150 feet away from any wetland, which really kind of cripples what we can do. This is a very brief kind of overview. This happens to be Route 15 on the Merritt Parkway. This is in Orange, Connecticut. This is where it was first picked up. Here's the rest area on the southbound side, and here's the rest area on the northbound side with the populations of visual surveys, as well as some residentials. As you can see, this area right here happens to be documented wetlands, and the yellow line is 150 feet from that wetland. So in this particular area, the only thing that we can do is treat our egg masses with, scraping the egg masses with the technique that we just saw, as well as treating it with the golden pest oil because that is a very specific, targeted treatments. And our dino-tefuron treatments of ailanthus trees, which in this particular area, there's only a few trees. So it's not going to give us the effect that we want, but it's the only other thing that we can do because this entire southbound area, we can't treat with our bifenthrin. And that's going to play out. We've had teams go up and down the corridor of our Metro North line, which it happened. A lot of our visual surveys or our reports came in from all of the tracks or the stops along the Metro North line. And it's really they have done 90% of the line and we can only treat, a handful of those areas because we're running up against marsh areas and wetlands. And there's undocumented wetlands, so we couldn't even do anything over here because it's wetlands. So we have to be very, very careful. And I do see that that's going to be a problem and play out in Massachusetts as well, where there's a lot of wetlands up in Worcester County right now. So as it becomes a bigger population, our treatment options are going to become less as we go on. It's a very quick, brief overview, but are there any questions, Jen, that I could answer?
You caught me off guard. I was not expecting you to be done so fast. Hold on, let me pull up the Q&A because there was a question that I thought that it would be really helpful for you to answer. But then I'm gonna take more questions at the end. So hopefully you can stick around for another 15, 20 minutes or so to answer more questions.
Yep, absolutely.
But there was one question that I felt was relevant. Hold on, there's a lot of questions still unanswered here. Oh, right. Someone was asking if anyone is sending climbers into the trees, sort of like they used to do back in the late 1800s with Lymantria dispar, scrape egg masses. And I was wondering if you knew whether anyone was doing that.
I do not know that anybody's doing that, although it sounds amazingly fun. I have not heard any state doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's just more important to listen to what Saul was saying in New Jersey, which is that they're recognizing that they aren't going to be able to get 100% of the egg masses. And I think that's an important and realistic way of thinking about things. They're trying to slow things down, not eradicate.
Correct.
So.
It's definitely a stop the spread, slow the spread and suppress it as much as possible.
Yes. So this is what I want to do. I want to encourage more questions for Erica in the Q&A. I see some coming in now. I'm going to do the last poll question, and then we're just going to go transition over to a few more slides and then some Q&A. I am just never good at launching these poll questions. Hold on, guys. Launch. Okay, so which of these places would you be least likely to find an SLF egg mass? Would it be in the wheel wells of your truck, on the trunk of a tree of heaven, on a wooden pallet, in leaf litter, or on patio furniture? And I'm just going to give folks a chance to answer those questions. And then is that Erica put her email in the chat. Erica, there are 320 participants registered, so you might regret that, but
that's okay.
Okay. Also, I was hoping that Tani from UMass Extension was going to pop in to advertise her invasive insect webinars that are going on at UMass right now, but I haven't seen her for some reason, so hopefully she will do that soon.
I just put it in there, Jen.
Okay, great. Oh, there it is. Okay, good. Right. Those of you that are like, first of all, interested in getting free pesticide credits. Second of all, feeling like you didn't learn enough about spotted lanternfly before you got to this talk today, because we're not doing the basics. UMass is covering spotted lanternfly and more all this week, including me and Astra on Friday. And they're free, and they're not usually free, and they're all great. And you get continuing education credits to help meet a lot of those needs. So I encourage you to look in the chat at Tawny's description and link at the bottom there, and register for that as well. Thank you, Tawny. I'm going
Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to end the poll now. And let's see. Okay, share results. How did people do? 76% of folks answered correctly, which is that you would be least likely to find spotted lanternfly egg masses in leaf litter collected during yard cleanup. Would it be impossible for you to find it in there? No, I suppose there could be, you know, sloughed off bark with an egg mass on it or something like that. But you are far more likely to find it on a tree of heaven, flat surfaces like wooden pallets, the wheel wells of your truck, and unfortunately on patio furniture. Just a reminder that all of these things are things that either are transportation devices on their own, or they are things that get transported a lot around the country. So it's always good to do a check. And I just want to cover a few more slides here and just say, you know, we realize that it's hard to keep track of all the things that spotted lanternfly could be hitchhiking on. So we ask folks to, first of all, you know, remember that map that came up. And if you know that you have goods that are being shipped into you in Massachusetts, or actually in any state, from other states with known spotted lanternfly infestations, please check those things for signs of spotted lanternfly. During the spring, summer, and fall, look for the nymphs and adults. This time of year, please look for the egg masses. We've produced a lot of print materials that you can go to our website, which I've put in the chat and is here too, massnrc.org/pests/SLF. You can download the best management practices for nurseries and landscapers. That is very apropos to anyone in the green industry and comes with a huge checklist of materials on the back that you should be checking for signs of this pest. We have a sort of a short version driver's checklist that we've adapted from the USDA's Hungry Pests website that we have in both English and Spanish now, that is good for going through all those parts of your truck or van or other vehicle and checking for SLF there. And of course, we have a poster that you can display in your place of business or to your staff so that they're reminded about this pest, because it is here in some places and it is coming. In terms of next steps for us, we don't have another webinar scheduled yet. We're still looking into our options for next year. This was our fourth in a series of 4 quarterly webinars. If you attended this webinar or you're on our pest newsletter list, you will get a note when we have another one of these. If you want to order free outreach materials, I'm going to put this link in our chat too. We've got a bit of a delay in getting the materials out right now because I'm down a staff person and I only had one staff person, but we will get them out to you. You can also follow us on Twitter at MassPests. Just a reminder that if you weren't here for our other webinars, we have them archived on our MDAR YouTube page. I'm going to put a link to that in the chat somehow while I am answering all these Q&As as well. If you want to check those out, and we're going to be putting this up there too shortly. I just want to say thank you to everybody today. We're going to be doing Q&A now, but just a shout out to all the folks who have reported spotted lanternfly to us through our website. These are actual photos from folks. The one on the left is from the latest find, which is just dead adults, hitchhikers from Great Barrington. The one on the right is one of the pictures that led us to the new infestation in Shrewsbury. So thanks to those folks for that as well. All right, let's get this Q&A going here. Right, I just wanted to say, I have to say, I know that Saul couldn't be here, but I was surprised to see that then when they scrape the egg masses, they're just scraping and crushing, because we had heard all of these very complicated steps that you needed to take with scraping the egg masses and placing them in alcohol to make sure they die. But it sounds like the crushing itself would be enough to destroy them, and you don't need to worry about collecting them. And that certainly makes the work that they're doing out in New Jersey and other states a lot more efficient. Someone was, and I'm asking our panelists to, Tanya, I'm going to bump you as a panelist. by. There, just want to make sure we don't get that confused. Erica and Astra, I would ask that you help with the Q&A here. So someone was asking, is anybody using tephra and bark applications? And Astra, did you want to, are either of you able to take that question for me while I clear some other stuff out in the Q&A?
I can do that, Jen.
Excellent.
Yeah, we are going to be doing the bark application and not the soil or the injection that you saw that DCR did. It is an easier way to put down the chemical. So in Connecticut and most other states, they are doing the bark spray.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks are asking about, I see in the Q&A lots of questions about like different products that would be available. Like at this point, we're not recommending that folks treat on their own. We still just have 2 known infestations in Massachusetts, and they are being handled regulatorily by the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources with assistance from other state and federal agencies. So, you know, if we do end up using a product, we are following the label. We are minimizing the non-target impacts, but we recognize that there's a bit of a trade-off there. But we're not recommending any particular products to folks. That might change in the future, but as of right now, we're just working this on our own. Someone asked if they're edible. That's an interesting question. I've seen birds and praying mantises eat them. I don't think they're edible to humans, but I guess I don't know the answer to that. If anyone has any other things they could add, go for it. I just wonder if they might be like distasteful or slightly poisonous, given that they're feeding on Tree of Heaven. But I don't know. Someone asked if there are any updates on promoting chalcid wasps for biological control. I know that the USDA has folks down at, I don't remember the official name of it, that since it's changed, the Forest Pest Research Laboratory at Otis Air Force Base. Thank you, Erica. They're working on a number of different biological controls. Everything is still in the research phase. Still, I don't even know of any releases in Massachusetts. Those usually come through our agency. I feel like I answered that. All right, hold on. Let me see if I have some more questions for some good help about Android phones. If people can't see the poll questions, I'm just reading this out loud because I need to commit this to memory. If people can't see the poll questions, they need to click the more button on the bottom right of their phones, then click poll. Well, after a year of this, I have learned this for next time. Thank you, Dan. Sorry for folks in trouble. Let's see. Somebody asked, can we wholly prevent the spread of SLF, or are we slowing their spread and mitigating the negative effects? I think there's not 100% agreement on this, but I think it's likely at this point that it's going to be really challenging to eradicate a pest that has the habits and the host range that spotted lanternfly does. Somebody asked if these are found in residential neighborhoods. Erica, I thought maybe you could answer that.
They are found in residential neighborhoods and the high-risk pathways. You know, if someone goes to Pennsylvania for the weekend and an adult happens to jump on their car and they come up, there it is. The new one that happened in Cheshire, Connecticut, it was in October of 2021, was in a residential neighborhood, and it happened to be in this back garage. It was very unexpected to find it there. However, when we did some more investigating, we noticed that someone with a roll-on dumpster happened to be parking in that general vicinity. And we just talked to him, he happened to come from a very heavily infested area. He drives there to work. So they're definitely in residential areas as well as, you know, rest areas and pit stops.
Thank you. Let's see. Sorry, there's a lot of questions here, guys. I just want to take a few more. We're at 11:07, so I understand if you need to leave. Otherwise, we're going to try to take some more questions here. Lots of questions about the, you know, in Massachusetts, neonics are going to be more strictly restricted use. And so people are looking for alternatives. I guess, you know, I don't have a specific answer about product fee for now, especially because any treatments for this pest are still being handled just at the state level. And we have access to those types of chemicals if we need to. What I can tell you is that we will, you know, if we get to the point where we're asking property owners to do this kind of work on their own, we will provide a list of products that will assist you if needed. And somebody else was asking, you know, about the tree removals. I feel like we covered, you know what, I will admit, I was doing a lot of Q&A answering when Astra was talking. I feel like Astra mentioned the tree removals. Astra, do you want to say anything else about that? If you didn't already, with respect to, you know, how feasible it is to keep doing the tree removals and what we are doing so far.
Sure. So right now our infestations have been like centralized on just a few trees at a time. So it's been like pretty easy for us to say, okay, we're gonna just remove these trees. And actually in Fitchburg, we're gonna do a removal of those trees and a slightly larger area. But overall, it's still a pretty low volume of trees. If we were to get, you know, something like 100 trees that we found SLF on, and then, you know, we surveyed and it turns out that the spread was like the quarter mile or more at that point, we'd probably move to scraping and treating rather than trying to pay for removal of every tree that we found these on. I think down in Connecticut, they're at that point. So Erica can speak more to that, but you know, if it's several kilometers of trees and it just keeps spreading, at that point, we're moving over to treatment and mitigation rather than just trying to remove the trees. But for what we have right now, it's very feasible and pretty easy for us to just remove little groves of trees. But yeah, Erica, if you want to give a little bit more detail on what happened in Connecticut, I'm sure that will answer that question.
Yeah, so removing their food source is definitely, you know, it's beneficial. However, you're also going to spread the pest because it's going to go looking for that food source, conceivably. So Connecticut was a little behind the 8 ball when SLF was here, and it's you know, the population is starting to grow more, and we're at that threshold where it's not cost effective for us to go and do any tree removals, and we don't have a huge budget. So it's really, when you're on a budget, there's this threshold that you really just have to figure out what's going to be best for the program. And right now, the best for the program is to try to treat these populations that are out there.
Thank you. I just want a quick reminder to folks, there's a couple of links to stuff in the chat, and also we've been answering a lot of the Q&A questions, not live, but just in writing. So if you look at the Q&A tab, there should be an answered tab in the top center. Sorry, I'm multitasking poorly here. Let's see. Are there any native trees they do not target? That, I mean, they have over 100 different types of plants that they will attack. They don't seem to be, yes, I don't even know how to really answer that well. we can tell you what the main hosts are, right? They don't seem to particularly want to be on oak. They're on birch and elm and maple and walnut. There are plenty of other, they don't seem to prefer conifers as well, although they'll lay eggs on anything. So that doesn't mean that they are draining them of sap, but they will use them for laying eggs. Let's see, look at the time. It is 11:12. I'm going to take one or two more questions and that's it. Thank you to everybody for all of these great questions and for sticking around to hear the answers. Someone was asking, right, are the egg masses reactive to UV light? Can you spot them at night with a UV light? I also need to know the answer to this. As somebody that does a lot of black lighting and has a UV light for finding stuff at night in the summer, I would love to test this. I don't know if Erica, you know the answer to this. We need to ask some folks in Pennsylvania to check.
So it's really funny. I don't know 100% the answer, but they did do, there was a research project and I forgot, I think it was Rutgers that just did it, where they did put some type of UV light paint on the SLF to find out if there was a residential population or if they were, you know, moving between a vineyard and like a the woodlot just adjacent to it. So they had gone out multiple days and painted different colors on the SLF and then went back at night to do some research. So the fact that they had to paint them, I don't think that they're reactive to the UV light, but it was a pretty cool study. If I can find it, Jen, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure it was Rutgers, but I can definitely get that answer for you.
Okay, great. All right, why don't we take one more? Someone was asking like what happens to the egg masses in the winter. I just know that these are insects that survive really well in a temperate climate. I haven't heard anything about them being killed off in a polar vortex or anything. So they're doing just fine as far as I know. So there were a couple questions about the whole like egg mass removal crushing thing. And I feel like, I mean, it's an interesting question, right? I mean, I suppose that if you scraped the egg mass and didn't fully 100% crush them, that there's a possibility that some of the eggs might hatch and possibly survive. I think, again, when you're working on an area like New Jersey is where you're not trying to eradicate, then your goal isn't necessarily to destroy 100% of what you're scraping, especially because you're not even able to hit anything above 20 feet or so, and they're laying tons of eggs up in the upper canopy of the trees. I think they're just doing the best they can to slow the spread. And I think once you kind of adjust to not being able to eradicate a pest like this, you don't need to, you know, you could be sort of more efficient as you move through scraping egg masses and not be worrying about like a single egg or something. And someone else was asking like if kids are playing in trees, are they going to get the egg masses on them? I think that if you disturbed and crushed the egg masses when you were like scraping against them, climbing a tree, it would be really hard to carry an egg that would then hatch on you or wherever it dropped off of you. So I wouldn't consider that to be an issue. All right, right. So there was a question about doing trap trees. We didn't talk about that. I don't know if, Erica, is Connecticut doing any work with trap trees? I heard about that a lot a few years ago and not so much now, and I don't know why.
So it's possible we might be working with the Otis lab to do some research on those trap trees. It was not in our purview this year, but probably down the road, we would probably consider doing trap trees, but not currently.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so for people that don't know what a trap tree would be, that you remove most of the trees in an area and leave one out where you
Treated.
Yeah, you treat it so that anything that goes to it then dies, which is nice if you're able to do that in a particular area. It's sort of a way of a sink for a heavily infested area. Everything that comes to that dies, and then you're just removing them from the population. I think that needs to be our last question. I just want to answer that one. Everybody, thank you so much. You know, we answered as many questions as we could. We had a lot of attendees for this session. I hope that you learned a lot. I feel like I did, even though I've been doing this for more than 5 years. I still learned a lot just hearing for folks. I want to thank Erica, and I know Saul's not here, but I want to say that I really appreciate both of you taking the time to be here today and speak to us. And thank you, Astra, for the state update. Just again, a reminder, if you were here for the pesticide license credits, you got to give me till the end of the month to get them out. They get emailed to you. So you might want to make sure that you check your spam folder if you still haven't seen it before I get 300 people emailing me asking me where their credits are. And I want to thank you again for attending, and everybody have a good day. All right, I'm going to stop this and stop recording.